Okay, well, I can put them both to sleep and then... Oh! Oh, okay. Hello, Internet. Welcome to the channel. My name is Frankie, and today we are continuing our Jurassic World Evolution 2 park build. In the last episode, I built a kind of Pokeball-looking exhibit. It was 3 exhibits in one area that formed a huge circle, and it's left us with this large path here that I thought I'd fill in with a kind of... Well, there's not really a rhyme or reason for this shape. It ends up looking a bit like Africa, but also not really. Yeah, just pop in this massive enclosure here to add some more carnivores to our park. I'm not going to be restricting myself with time periods this time. For, I'd say, the first half of this park, it was very much a case of picking a time period and then whether it's going to be herbivore or carnivore and then going from there. But after the last video, I've decided that the rest of this park is just going to be dinosaurs that I feel don't get used enough, at least by me. I completely understand that these dinosaurs probably get used a lot more in the general community, but I want to use dinosaurs that I don't often use myself. What I'm going to do is, this is quite a large space, so I'm going to split this massive enclosure in two, which will allow us to do some pretty interesting things, because the creatures will be able to see each other through the fence, which is a bit strange, because I'd expect them to want to try and fight each other, try to break into each other's enclosures, but it's just not how it works, which is fine. I'm going to use this fence area to create a shared water source, which is something that's really cool. I find having a watering area, like a water hole or pond, whatever you want to call it, that bridges the gap between two enclosures often makes it look a lot more believable. It just looks a lot more natural, I think, to have this kind of fluid movement of water between two separate enclosures. So that's why I wanted to do this. As you can see, I did a really big splodge to begin with and then started to carve away at it using the remove water tool to get a slightly more dynamic looking finish. Once I'm happy with the shape of the water, I'm going to start adding a bit of variation in the height of the land. And to do that, I'm just using the raise terrain tool and just picking certain areas that pull up out of the ground. I'm not really thinking too much about where I'm doing it this time. There's not too much of a theme, I'm just experimenting. I'm also going to be using the lower terrain tool as well, just to increase that variation. I think this kind of thing makes it look a lot more interesting. An enclosure makes it look more like a natural landscape. And normally, I will smooth out these high ridges so that it looks a lot softer. But for a change, I thought I'd use the flatten terrain tool to start to carve some of these raised areas, make them look a little bit more sharp. So it's contrasting how I normally do it, which might help to set this enclosure apart. For now, I'm quite happy with how this enclosure is looking. I'm not going to bother adding any foliage or anything because I'm not sure what our dinosaurs' needs are. So the only thing really left to do is to go and make myself some dinosaurs. So let's go and hatch some little dinos. Whilst I'm waiting for the dinosaurs to cook in the hatchery, it's going to be time for adding some viewing galleries. And I haven't used this big log thing yet in the park, which is from the Jurassic World film. I think it's in the Tyrannosaurus enclosure from the first Jurassic World, if I remember correctly. Like I said in one of the previous videos, I like to try and use at least one type of viewing gallery that is unique to that enclosure. I just like the idea of not having it repeated everywhere. We'll have these standard ground level viewing galleries and the kind of, what have I been referring them to as, the lighthouse, the really tall viewing galleries. Those can go on any enclosures whatsoever. But I think for variation's sake, it's good to have more unique viewing galleries, limited, so just one per exhibit. To simply start to introduce a bit more colour into this enclosure, I'm going to use some dirt and sand to start colouring around this water hole. It makes it look a bit more believable to have this variation in texture, but it's also just a lot more interesting to have different colours going on in the enclosures. Just flat green can often look a little bit dull. As we know that the dinosaurs going in here are going to be carnivores, we are pretty safe to put down some meat feeders. In this case, we're going to use the live goat feeder because if you put in large or medium-sized carnivores in and you know they're going to be eating goats, you should do it because the animations are awesome. As they're not herbivores, their need for foliage won't be that strict. They're not going to need specific types or anything to fit their diet. So I'm going to start to add little clumps of trees around the enclosures tried to break up where they are a little bit. We don't want just a huge patch of forest. It's nice to have little patches here and there. Just going to use the forest tool, kind of painting it into little corners and making little drops of greenery. Now that I'm fairly happy with the plant coverage and the colour in this enclosure, I think it's time to release our first dinosaur, and we're going to go with a true Jurassic Park staple, the Dilophosaurus. People often talk about how iconic the Tyrannosaurus Rex's roar is in Jurassic Park, but these weird squeaky vocalizations that come out of the Dilophosaurus, I think, are just as unique. I really like the sound design for these guys. I'm not too much of a fan of the... well, that was an unintentional pun. I'm not the biggest fan of the fan around their head, just because the actual dinosaur wouldn't have had that. But I do really like these dinosaurs. Having those fans do actually allow for quite a nice colour on them. You can really work with patterns and stuff. So I quite like these dinosaurs. They are really quite interesting things to look at. Let's get them over into our park and we'll start to pop out some of our other inhabitants. I love how excited that first one was to get out of the hatchery. The way it just raced around the door was really kind of cute. Right, so we're using the Megalosaurus now. This is something I really haven't had much experience with, but I thought I'd pop it in a park for that reason. I quite like the studded kind of scales on the head. I don't know, it's a really nice kind of ornamentation. It's nothing too flashy, but it just makes them a bit more distinct to some of the other carnivores. Yeah, I want to go for some small and some big in these enclosures. I'm thinking one big and one small in each enclosure, so they can live alongside each other, hopefully peacefully. Let's get these over and we will pop out even more dinosaurs. Whilst the Megalosaurus is in the air, we're going to start adding a little bit more trees and stuff to this enclosure because I forgot how needy the Dilophosaurus is in terms of forest. I think they like to skulk about in the woods, ready to pounce on their prey without being seen. So we're going to add some more foresty bits for it to do exactly that. Enter the Proceratosaurus. I personally am a really big fan of these guys. I think they're really different to most of the other carnivores in the game. They're really quite thin and slender. I think their bodies in particular are really quite different. Obviously the crest on their nose sets them apart as well. That snout crest is really different to most of the other species as well. But I just think the general build of these guys is quite unique compared to most of the other dinosaurs. So I'm quite happy to have these as an addition to my park. I thought it'd be quite cool to have a small troop of them. Like 4 or 5 is a good number, I think. Racing about the enclosure, getting on the nerves of the bigger dinosaurs. So let's pop them into the park. Whilst we're waiting, I thought we'd just take a moment to appreciate the Megalosaurus and just how cool they are. And after this big guy's had a nice drink, we can go and get our Proceratosaurus, their housemate, which is going to be the Cryolophosaurus. This is again quite a unique dinosaur. That head crest is like a none other. It's almost like a kind of ramp. It's like a half pipe on its head. It's very strange. Anyway, let's get these cool dinosaurs into the park with their housemates, the Proceratosaurus. And whilst I'm getting those guys ready, I get a notification that somebody's fighting. These Dimetrodon are having a little squabble. Let's hope this isn't a sign of things to come. Oh, that's not very nice, is it? Leave him alone. Oh, that guy's running about. He's in a panic. He doesn't like everyone fighting. See? Look what you're doing to your friends. They're all worried. Stop it. Oh. Okay, as long as they don't actually hurt each other, that's fine. But I would rather they stop soon. Guys. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll check the feeders and... I mean, there's enough food. I don't really see what the issue is. We'll put another one in, I think, just to be safe. And just when they finish their fight, I find this guy and his sibling. Looks like the Megalosaurs have had a bit of fun. It's going well, this park. It turns out that the Proceratosaurus actually prefers to eat from a meat food dispenser rather than a goat thingy. So that's fine. We could put one straight in front of the viewing gallery and the guests will get a lovely view of these dinosaurs eating, which is great. It's great for our park and dinosaur visibility. So yeah, I thought that was just worth pointing out. They can't hunt goats, or maybe they can, but they don't like to. Now the Coelophosaurus is into its enclosure, it seems to be acclimating pretty well. I don't think we're going to need to change anything really. Seems pretty happy. Although it does have one of those exclamation marks by the social tab again, which probably means it doesn't like the Proceratosaurus, which it just roared at and it's charging at. Okay, well I can put them both to sleep and then... Oh! Oh, okay. Oh. I think we're about to lose all our Proceratosaurs. Right, I'm going to put all the dinosaurs in this enclosure to sleep, I think, and do a bit of an emergency rescue. Get all the Proceratosaurus out before they die, like the Dilophosaurus did. I'll try and find somewhere to build an enclosure for them. Maybe this area here. Yeah. Okay. Rescue time! Just putting some environmental final touches on this enclosure, making it a bit more habitable for all the creatures, I guess. Whilst they are getting transported over, they've already been put to sleep and are up in the air. So hopefully this is big enough for them. I'm not entirely sure how much size they need, how much space they need even, but I hope this is okay because I don't want to lose them to... I didn't mind losing the Dilophosaurus too much, but for some reason, the idea of all the Proceratosaurus dying kind of bothered me. I want to keep them. So let's get them in here. And actually, as we ended up losing 2 of them, I think I'm going to go and make a couple more in the hatchery and boost those numbers a little bit, make this a bit more of an attractive thing for visitors. Okay, now I do believe everyone should be okay. I don't think anybody's going to be fighting anymore, and if they do, it'll just be a dominance thing between the bigger dinosaurs, which is fine, because they very rarely actually injure each other. So, hopefully we're all good. I think we are. Okay. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with these enclosures. Aside from the unfortunate fatalities that we've had along the way, I quite like the general look of them. They're a bit more simple and not as over the top as some of the ones we've done so far. I think this is quite a nice addition. It's a good gap filler. This area of the park really needed something, and it's a good opportunity to get more carnivores in, because carnivores require quite a lot of space for what they are. I mean, you can have a lot of different species of herbivores together and it not cause too much of an issue, but as we've seen in this video, different species of carnivore, it doesn't work quite as well. So this really allowed us to mix things up a bit. Now, I'm about ready to call this build done. We built an entire extra enclosure we didn't actually mean to or didn't set out to do. alongside the double enclosure we made at the beginning. I love this kill animation. I just wanted to put this in here real quick. Yeah, so over the next few days you can expect to see, I think, 2 more Jurassic World videos. I want to add the king of the dinosaurs himself, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I have an idea for an enclosure for him over the back of the park, an area that hasn't really been used. I'm also going to fill out some of the decorations, I guess. There's a lot of open space that I want to fill in, make it look a bit more lived in, I guess. And then tomorrow, at least the time of recording this, tomorrow, Planet Zoo will be coming to console. And I am really, really looking forward to this. This is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. And for some of you, it's probably the way that you actually found this channel. So I'm looking forward to making some Planet Zoo videos soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for potentially subscribing, and make sure you do if you want to see future videos. And until next time, I'll see you later.